Welcome to the Real Review on Dame Good Radio, and I'm your host, Warbucks. Tonight, we are transcending the typical Hollywood fodder. We are stepping away from the silver screen blockbusters and descending into the gritty, surrealist pavement of Long Beach, California. The piece of art we're diving into today, and I use the word art with the utmost weight and intention, is the 2024 cultural phenomenon known as the Vince Staples Show. Now, before we even peel back the curtain on the narrative, we must understand the atmosphere in which this project was birthed. We are living in a renaissance of the rapper-auteur. We've seen it with Donald Glover. We've seen it with Dave Bird. But what we have here is something far more nebulous, far more distinct. This isn't just a show. It is a visual manifesto of dry wit and existential dread wrapped in a Technicolor hoodie. Directed and created by the man himself, Vince Staples, this project is a long gestating labor of love and pain. We are talking about a project that sat in the incubator for 8 or 9 years. Think about that timeline, listeners. Nearly a decade of grinding, of pitching, of being told no, or maybe, or change this. Vince has gone on record stating that the road to this premiere was paved with trials and tribulations that would break a lesser artist. He battled through the global stagnation of the pandemic, a period that didn't just halt production but brought personal tragedy to his doorstep. It was a time of mourning and creative purgatory. But as the old adage goes, pressure makes diamonds. Or in this case, pressure makes a surrealist comedy about the absurdity of existing while black in America. It was a close friend who told Vince the hard truth. This show isn't going to get done unless you write it yourself. And that, my friends, is the origin story of Vince Staples, writer, actor, executive producer. The sweat, the blood, the tears, it's all woven into the digital fabric of this series. And because of that tenacity, I believe firmly that we owe this show not just a viewing, but a study. Let's get into the architecture of the thing. I remember the anticipation radiating off the streets when this was announced. I'm a fan of Vince Staples' music. Let's just get that out of the way. I am a devotee of the culture of hip hop. I love cinema, television, the moving image. So witnessing the collision of these two galaxies, the sonic grit of Vince's discography and the visual medium of narrative television is nothing short of miraculous. If you are looking for a touchstone, a coordinate to orient yourself, you might look toward FX's Atlanta or perhaps Dave, but I only draw those comparisons to give you a scaffold. While those shows share a similar DNA of heightened reality, the Vince Staples Show is its own beast. It is abstract art. It is a Salvador Dalí painting hanging in a trap house. Structurally, this show defies the binge watch era's obsession with serialization. Vince rejects this. This show operates as an anthology of days, a series of one-offs. Each episode is a self-contained universe shot at different times, yet tethered together by the location, Long Beach, California. As a fan of the music, I know this soil. I know this is the foundation that built the man. Let us dissect the premiere, the first offering, titled Pink House. The visual language is established immediately. We open in the dead of night. Moody cinematography, a car parked in front of a donut shop. An Asian woman exits, moving with the silent efficiency of the early morning worker. The camera cuts, sharp, deliberate, to the interior, We see a black man covered in flour crafting glazed donuts from scratch. You can almost smell the sugar and grease. Enter the police officer. He comes in for his usual. He takes a bite, the glaze cracking, and declares, "It's gonna be a good day." The irony is immediate. He gets into his cruiser, coffee in hand, only for a car to tear past him at Mach speed. He yells out, "Jesus," and the chase is on. But here is the subversion. He doesn't catch the speeder. He pulls over a Jeep. The window rolls down, and there he is, Vince Staples. The interaction is a masterclass in deadpan performance. Vince looks at the officer with a beatific smile and simply says, "Good morning, officer." Smash cut to the mugshot. Smash cut to the physical reality of incarceration. Now we are in the ecosystem of the jail. Vince sits on the bench. A white guy with a black Sharpie is defacing the government walls. He writes, "I hate N." Vince watches. The tension spikes. As the writer reaches the letter G, Vince clears his throat, a subtle guttural warning. The white guy looks back, sees Vince, sees another black man, and panic recalibrates his racism. He finishes the word, "I hate nightmares." Vince's delivery here is exquisite dry comedy. He replies, "I do too, all the time." And that, my friends, is the origin story of Vince Staples. Writer, actor, executive producer, the sweat, the blood, the tears, it's all woven into the digital fabric of this series. And because of that tenacity, I believe firmly that we owe this show not just a viewing, but a study. A new character enters the orbit, a fan. He recognizes Vince. "I knew that was you. I told you that was him, my dog." Vince tries to deflect. "You know I don't really mess with the music stuff like that." The fan is incredulous. He launches into a diatribe about the dangers of the industry, citing Michael Jackson. The absurdity of the dialogue is Pinter-esque. The fan tries to rap. Vince shuts it down. "I ain't in the mood for that right now." But peace is a luxury not afforded here. We hear beatboxing, mouth-made percussion echoing off the concrete. The guy is singing R. Kelly's "I Believe I Can Fly." But the lyrics have been remixed for the mass incarceration era. I used to think that I was misunderstood until the day they put me on the hood. It is tragic. It is hilarious. It is deeply uncomfortable. And then the looming threat appears. A large black man. He clocks Vince. You look familiar. What's your name, homie?" Vince gives his government name. The big guy isn't having it. "Nah, your other name." Vince whispers a gang moniker. The big guy's demeanor shifts to ice. "When they take us out the back, we gon' line it up." Vince, resigned to his fate, replies, "For show." He asks the singing fan about the threat. He ain't got no squabble or nothing, though. The singer delivers the bad news. He's not much of a fighter. He do be stabbing people, though. Great form, masterful. Vince calls his sister Bridget. We cut to the outside world. Bridget is in a power suit, pink blazer, black shirt. She's sitting in her car watching a turf war unfold. Men in black shirts are tearing down arrival realtor signs and replacing them with hers. It's a visual gag that speaks volumes about the hustle of the Staples family. She answers. Vince asks for bail. Her response, "Bree don't do jailhouses, she sell houses." She suggests he call Deja. Vince refuses. He doesn't want to tarnish his image with his girl. Back in the cell, Vince calls for the guard. A white officer approaches. Vince pleads for solitary. The guard looks at him and recites lyrics from Vince's own track. North, I ain't never ran from nothing but the police." The guard smiles. I guess we got you now. He unlocks the cell, not to help Vince, but to parade him to the other cops. Vince's delivery here is exquisite dry comedy. He replies, I do too, all the time. And that, my friends, is the origin story of Vince Staples, writer, actor, executive producer. The sweat, the blood, the tears, it's all woven into the digital fabric of this series. And because of that tenacity, I believe firmly that we owe this show not just a viewing, but a study. We cut to the admin area. A cop is watching the North North music video. Another cop, played by Brian Greenberg in a fantastic cameo, pours coffee. He pours 2 cups, one for himself, one for Vince. Vince reaches for the coffee. Greenberg's character snatches it away and drinks it right in front of him. A subtle, devastating power move. They discuss the charges. Assault. Vince claims innocence. Everybody in here is innocent, the cop retorts. Back in the cell, the reality gets grotesque. A man on the toilet pushes a glass pipe out of his rectum and lights it. Vince reaches behind the toilet and pulls something out. A shank. Vince is sharpening a blade. It is a moment of survival. He walks to the front of the cell to confront Poke, the stabber. Hey bro, I feel like we got off on the wrong foot. Poke cuts him off. You from over there, so we got problems on Bam Bam. Vince pauses. Bam Bam, Miss Mary's son. She used to watch me back when she had that pink house, big cookies, oatmeal. The tension evaporates instantly. You prob no Terrence too? Vince adds. Poke asks, TLO Terrence or Trouble Terrence? Vince says, TLO, we like best friends. Poke's face drops. Yeah, he snitched on me and now I'm facing 800 years to life. And I hate oatmeal. Vince replies, don't nobody hate oatmeal. Suddenly, the buzzer sounds. The guard saves him. Time to go. Vince walks out. The cops drop the bombshell. Turns out you were innocent after all. Mistaken identity. They apologize as if they stepped on his shoe, not deprived him of his liberty. Vince walks home in the dark. A stranger approaches. Are you Vince Staples? You know my cousin Terrence? TLO or Trouble Terrence, Vince asks. TLO. Vince, learning his lesson from the cell, replies, forget him, and walks off. He enters his home. His girlfriend, Deja, comes out and scrubs. How was your day? She asks. It was cool. Anything interesting happen? Not really. She answers. Vince asks for bail. Her response, Bree don't do jailhouses, she sell houses. She suggests he call Deja. Vince refuses. He doesn't want to tarnish his image with his girl. Back in the cell, Vince calls for the guard. A white officer approaches. Vince pleads for solitary. The guard looks at him and recites lyrics from Vince's own track, North North. I ain't never ran from nothing but the police. The guard smiles. I guess we got you now. He unlocks the cell, not to help Vince, but to parade him to the other cops. Vince's delivery here is exquisite dry comedy. He replies, I do too, all the time. And that, my friends, is the origin story of Vince Staples, writer, actor, executive producer. The sweat, the blood, the tears, it's all woven into the digital fabric of this series. And because of that tenacity, I believe firmly that we owe this show not just a viewing, but a study. The central message of Pink House serves as a profound sociological lecture on the precarious nature of Black freedom in America. This isn't just a bad day. This is a dissection of how quickly a life can be derailed by the systemic presumption of guilt. Think about it. Vince gets pulled over for speeding. In a just world, this is a ticket. But for a black man in this ecosystem, a traffic stop is a portal to the carceral state. He is locked up for a crime he didn't commit based on a warrant that wasn't verified. The system operates on a catch first, verify later algorithm. The show uses the jail as a symbol of purgatory. It compares favorably to the works of Franz Kafka, specifically The Trial. But Vince Staples adds the layer of racial absurdity. The cops love his music. They consume his black art while simultaneously caging his black body. That is the duality of the American experience for the black artist, loved for the entertainment, feared for the existence. Now, for my obsessive listeners, let's get into the weeds with a deep dive. First, the costume design. Did you notice the contrast? Vince is in muted streetwear, blending into the shadows. Bridget, his sister, is in a vibrant pink blazer. She represents the success story, playing the game of capitalism. Her color palette pops against the drab gray of the jail, symbolizing the two different worlds the siblings occupy. Second, the Shank title card. This isn't just a stylistic choice. It's a homage to silent cinema and grindhouse films, emphasizing the sudden shift in genre from comedy to prison thriller. And third, the geography. Vince mentions the North Side. He isn't just speaking generic dialogue. He is referencing the specific gang geography of Long Beach. The pink house mentioned isn't just a title, it's a local landmark of community memory. She answers, Vince asks for bail. Her response, Bree don't do jailhouses, she sell houses. She suggests he call Deja. Vince refuses. He doesn't want to tarnish his image with his girl. Back in the cell, Vince calls for the guard. A white officer approaches. Vince pleads for solitary. The guard looks at him and recites lyrics from Vince's own track, North North. I ain't never ran from nothing but the police. The guard smiles. I guess we got you now. He unlocks the cell, not to help Vince, but to parade him to the other cops. Vince's delivery here is exquisite, dry comedy. He replies, I do too, all the time. And that, my friends, is the origin story of Vince Staples, writer, actor, executive producer, the sweat, the blood, the tears. It's all woven into the digital fabric of this series. And because of that tenacity, I believe firmly that we owe this show not just a viewing, but a study. We have discussed the cinematography, the performances, and the message. For its audacity, for its refusal to hold the audience's hand, and for its unique blend of surrealism with Long Beach grit, there can be only one score. I am awarding the Vince Staples Show a perfect 5 out of 5 popcorn buckets. It stands shoulder to shoulder with the greats of the genre. It has the absurdity of Curb Your Enthusiasm and the visual flair of Atlanta, but it filters them all through a lens that is uniquely, unapologetically Vince. This has been the Real Review on Dame Good Radio. I'm Warbucks. To Vince Staples, if you're listening, keep writing, keep shooting. The culture needs this vision. And to the listeners, go watch episode 1. Watch it twice. Look for the details. Listen to the silence between the lines. We don't just consume content here. We metabolize art. Until next time, keep your eyes on the screen and your ear to the street.